Hello, my name's Rhys Garrard and welcome to Woke News. So I wanted to start this week with a piece of positive news. Wilson, the cleanup device which is set out to clean up the Pacific garbage patch, is now in action. It is working. You may remember actually at the start of the year it set out to do exactly the same thing but broke into two pieces and didn't retain any of the rubbish at all. So that wasn't great. But it's back out now and it is working after being fixed. The Dutch designer and inventor announced that just this week.
And it's the first time actually anyone harvests plastic from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, from these giant abundant fishing nets all the way down to the microplastic range. So we think we can actually clean the oceans. It's really a mix. You see things like bottles, crates, all the way down to fragments of what of course used to be large objects.
I've seen a lot of people online asking what's going to happen to the rubbish which is collected by Wilson out in the ocean. Now, in December, there's a plan to go out with a ship and collect all the rubbish which has been collected by Wilson. It's going to be brought back to the mainland, and then they think they should be able to sell it to companies who are making things out of recycled plastic. There's a lot of those around at the moment, you don't really realise, but recycled plastic is a major industry, and what a brilliant industry to be in as well, especially recycled ocean plastics. They think they're going to bring it back. They should be able to sell that material to these companies who can make it into long-lasting products for the future and get it out of the ocean. And if it creates demand, then more litter is going to be pulled out of the ocean than ever before. How brilliant is that? Now, the next story that actually caught my eye was something that I haven't seen anywhere else, but I think it's important nonetheless. Now, it's to do with Russia, as a lot of the news seems to be to do with Russia nowadays, but it was actually a statement Vladamir Putin gave about the climate strikes that have been happening, about Greta Thunbergs' speech to the UN, and it was really quite interesting to watch. So I'm going to play you a clip of that now.
Но я не разделяю общих восторгов по поводу выступления Греты Тунберг. Вы знаете, то, что молодые люди, подростки, обращают внимание на острые проблемы сегодняшнего дня, в том числе на проблемы экологии, это правильно и это очень хорошо, и их, безусловно, нужно поддержать. Но когда детей и подростков кто-то использует в своих интересах, это достойно только осуждения. Ведь никто Грете не объяснил, что современный мир сложен, многообразен, быстро развивается. И люди в Африке, либо во многих азиатских странах хотят жить на таком же уровне достатка, как и в Швеции. А как это сделать? Заставить их использовать сегодня энергию солнца, которой в Африке достаточно? Кто-нибудь объяснил, что это стоит? Но на сегодняшний день это доступная технология для развивающихся экономик и развивающихся стран. Малодоступная. Но люди хотят там жить так же, как в Швеции.
Now, watching that, there were actually a couple of things that really surprised me about what he said. The first one was that sort of children and teenagers being interested in ecology and the environment was brilliant, and it was sort of the right way to go. And actually that adults and leaders around the world should be supporting them. Now, from a country which isn't exactly known for its environmental policies, it kind of shocked me to hear that. He does carry on to make what I think can be a fair point sometimes, and I've often thought it in the past, and a lot of people get condemned for saying it, but it is true, is the fact that developed countries have spent years and years and years polluting the planet, destroying it, using fossil fuels, creating greenhouse gases to get sort of ahead in financial gain and gain economic stability. And now what we are doing as those developed countries is telling undeveloped ones, you can't do that. You should do it this way. This is how you have to do it for the sake of the planet. Now, admittedly, there's two arguments against this. The argument is that when we were doing, we didn't necessarily know how bad it was for the environment, although some companies arguably did. And nowadays we have a lot more knowledge and we should be acting on that. But obviously, renewable energy can be quite expensive compared to fossil fuels, compared to using coal and oil and gas, anything like that. So should we be pressurising developed countries to change their ways? Is it hypocritical? He makes a fair point. I think it's kind of your judgment to make on that. By any means, we should be saving the planet. I think regardless of what country you are, where you come from, your economic stability, all the rest of it, we should all be working to save the planet. But I think certain countries could be doing a lot more than they are with their position in the world. And I think perhaps he sums it up. He makes a fair point. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Vladimir Putin, but I just thought it was such an interesting speech that it really needed to be shown because I hadn't seen it at all around. So the story I absolutely have to end with this week is one from Extinction Rebellion. They were in London, they had a fire truck, they filled it with fake blood, which they said was just water and coloured food dye, drove it down into London and fired the fake blood at the Treasury building. It was an interesting protest stage to watch, mainly because it kind of went wrong. In fact, the hose they were using got loose and let's just say it went everywhere. So as you can see, it didn't quite go to plan for Extinction Rebellion. The 1,800 litres of fake blood that they had in the fire engine went all over the streets. And the Metropolitan Police said they'd arrested 5 men and 3 women in connection to it for criminal damage. Now, I have to say something about these protests because I've seen a lot of them recently, especially by Extinction Rebellion. They are the ones who, you know, really get on it and do some pretty extreme things at times, it's safe to say. And in my opinion, I don't think they actually do their job in convincing more people that we need to change our ways and that climate change is happening and we should save the planet. They don't get the public on their side, they really don't. You know, the problem is what they do is they go out, they annoy a lot of people, because, I mean, firstly, there's now 1,800 litres of, you know, water and red food dye everywhere, and people are going to walk to work and drive their cars through and all the rest of it. So, and that may not seem like a big inconvenience, but to someone going to work it is. To someone going to work, it's just a pain in the arse. It's not someone trying to save the planet. And I think online, you then get the people who go, oh, well, it was a diesel fire engine they drove into the centre of London. That's not very eco-friendly, is it? Oh, look at all that fake blood that was everywhere. The fake blood that wasn't actually damaging to the environment at all. But people don't, you know, people don't check that out. They go, oh, fake blood, absolutely everywhere. And it will be damaging the environment and going into the water systems and rivers, etc., etc. So, I don't know going forwards with them whether it's such a difficult thing to stand on a side of, because I really want to save the planet. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt we need to save the planet. But we also need everyone behind us to make governments change their mind. Because the issue is, the government see protests like that, they see blood fired at the Treasury building, or people stuck to roads down by a ferry port, which they were doing a few weeks ago. But the reality is, in their minds, it's such an insignificant act that they're not going to change what they're doing. I mean, the UK government as a whole put a lot of money last year into fossil fuel subsidies, while at the same time announcing a climate crisis. So I agree, something has to be done. But I think more peaceful protests like the climate strikes on a Friday are the way to do it. People are getting together, thousands of people are getting together every Friday to try and make change around the world. Isn't that great? There's a lot less backlash to those sort of things, and more people are joining and joining and joining. But when these sort of protests come along that are extreme, there's just that much negativity towards them that I think they can do more harm than good in trying to get everyone to come with us and join the climate movement. That's just my opinion on it. You've probably got a different opinion, the person sat next to you's got a different opinion, and it'll go on and on and on. But in my opinion, they probably do more harm than good, I think, to trying to get people to join. So yeah, that was Woke News this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've actually loved making it. Some brilliant news this week. The Pacific garbage patch being cleaned up, that's great. Some odd statements by Vladimir Putin about the environment, considering obviously Russia's not that environmentally friendly, and obviously Extinction Rebellion and the protests they made in London. Thank you for watching Woke News. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you next week.